Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for coming, and welcome to this session, which is titled Citizens of an Older Generation, Hidden Potential and New Opportunities. My name is Sean Walker. I'm the Moscow correspondent of The Guardian newspaper. And just to let everybody know that this session is going to be in Russian, English and Turkish, so it'd be useful probably, unless you speak all three of those languages, to have a translation device. So this topic for non-specialists like myself, it feels like a similar topic to global warming. We've read about it a lot. People are always discussing it. We know that it's going to change the way that our societies are organized. It's going to change the fundamental things about the way we live. But yet it doesn't quite seem real. It doesn't quite seem like we're prepared for it. It doesn't quite seem like enough is being done to adapt societies for these really big demographic changes. And this issue of aging populations is one that we're all going to have to deal with in coming years and decades as we live for longer on average and as we age probably in a different way. In my home country of Britain, the number of people over 60 will go up by 40% in the next 20 years. Moscow, the center of Moscow especially, can often feel like a very young city, but there are 3 million people of pension age here. And globally, there will be 2 billion people over 60 by 2050, which is a 250% increase on what we have now. I'm 33. My parents are in their early 60s, both recently retired, and I imagine that by the time I hit retirement age, I will have a very different life to them. In some ways it might be more comfortable, in some ways it might be more challenging, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be very different. And this is obviously going to affect governments who have to work out how to fund pensions and healthcare. It's going to affect urban planners who have to try and make their cities more livable for older people. And it's going to affect all of us, ordinary people of all ages, as people might be expected to work longer or contribute more in taxes. But as the title of today's discussion suggests, aging populations bring not only challenges but also a lot of opportunities. And we have to think about how urban planning solutions can help create these opportunities, about the role of technology, of online communication, for making life more fulfilling for elderly people. And we also have to think of creative and innovative ways that the elderly can contribute not just to making their own lives more meaningful, but to society as a whole. So after those short words, we have a lot of interesting speakers, so we're going to get right on with it. Unfortunately, Sergei Kapkov, the Moscow government minister and the head of the Department of Culture, couldn't make it today. So we have Yelena Zelentsova, who is his deputy. We also have Melik Gökçek, who is the mayor of Ankara in Turkey. We have Amy Kiyota, the president of Ibasho from the US. Matthias Holwich, the director of the HWKN Architectural Bureau, also from the US. We have Dmitry Rogozin, who is the head of the Federal Research Methodology Laboratory of brilliantly long Russian name, the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. And we also have, so those 5 people will hear short presentations from, and we have 2 other panelists who are up here today as well. That's Pavel Stepantsov, who is a senior researcher at the Center for Social Research here in Moscow, and also Anatoly Vishnevsky, who is the director of the Demography Institute at the Higher School of Economics. Because we have a lot of people here, I'd like to remind all of the speakers that we do have a 10-minute limit for speeches, and I will have to interrupt you if we go over, because it would be great to have time at the end to get everybody involved and have an interactive discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Yelena if you could give us your presentation, please. Thank you very much.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Please put on my presentation, switch it on. Thank you. So I'm very happy that the conversation from the Department of Culture opens this session, which is devoted to the aging or senior citizens of our city, because we think that today we really can talk not only about some demographic changes in the city, but also about substantial changes that occur and will happen in the way of life of our citizens, because presently, well, I will start with some numbers to quote, because our Institute of Social Cultural Programs have made a number of surveys devoted to leisure and way of life of senior people. Well, I will start with some numbers to finish with very curious cases from our perspective, which would illustrate, on the one hand, not a very good situation. I mean, those numbers here, you can see that when you retire, your involvement in cultural life declines 20%. And unfortunately, a very small number of people, senior people, are actively involved in cultural programs. But the people who are more actively involved in the cultural life of the city, as a rule, they demonstrate a higher level of satisfaction with their life, which means that on the one hand, the changes that have occurred from the point of view of just longevity, and because people live longer and they stay more active more longer, and those changes, they are sort of lagging behind the changes in people's minds, because on the one hand, a person is still active and full of strength, but on the other, it starts to seem to him that it's not for him, it's for the young people. And that's exactly the mental gap seems to us one of the most important. And speaking about the projects, I will mention this subject. So first of all, I would like to say that when we speak about a better or improved way of life for senior people, we draw the conclusion for ourselves that we want to do it not only for senior people, but for young people too. Because if senior people will feel comfortable in the city, the young people will strive to plan their pension, their retirement, and to spend it in the city, and not try to leave for a village or warm sea far from the city mess. Well, of course, the most traditional approach from the point of view of leisure and the way of life of senior citizens is an opportunity for them to be actively involved in bringing their grandchildren and to spend their leisure inside their families. Of course, it is important, and we try to spend a lot of attention to pay a lot of attention to grannies and their grandchildren, because when we speak about additional education, very often senior citizens, grannies, grandmothers, and grandfathers bring their grandchildren to different extra activities. And this should not be just waiting period for them, just waiting time. They should be more actively involved. And what can it be? I will tell you later. So needless to say, senior citizens, we know of the experience of Western society. They're actively involved in voluntary programs, and we think that there's a great potential, untapped potential, because indeed the people are full of strength, full of energy, and ready to spend their time useful and for both them and for other people around. So saying that we have about 80% of senior people not involved in the cultural life of our society, we can split them into four groups of obstacles that prevent them from being involved. First of all, that's financial reasons, then go space and just physical reasons, because indeed sometimes to come from district of Sonsovo to the city, to the center of the city to visit a theater, they will have to spend 2 hours in traffic. And for senior people, it is important. But besides, there exist stereotypes in the society when senior people or old people doesn't feel comfortable or competent enough, and they feel that it's not for them. And according to the according to the questionnaire we conducted, we realized that senior people are not fond of visiting or attending events where people are dancing, because it seems to them that it's not appropriate for them to be involved in dancing events. And of course, it's lack of information about the events that occur and that are open for pensioners or senior people. So here are some numbers which are eloquent enough. 85% of the people not involved in the cultural life, very often they are incapable of spending anything for their leisure time. But now I would like to get down to more specific cases. Today, in the libraries and in cultural centers, we have successful courses for senior people where they are trained to use personal computers, not just training them to work in with Word program. For instance, it's Skype, when senior people, for instance, can talk to their children and grandchildren through Skype. Also training social networks and social media involvement, and people are actively working at it, and they are mastering those technologies, which gives them an opportunity to talk to socialize with their relatives and with the teachers and professors at the courses, and they learn about the new world that changes their stereotype. This picture here is a surprising project from my perspective, which was called Fashionable Catwalk. And that was for it was Russian young designers, and their project was they gathered all volunteers. The only condition was that the people should be older than 50. Both ladies and men took part, and there were 10 television cameras, and you can't even imagine. But looking at those great ladies, you wouldn't even associate them with grannies. And of course, many of them have grandchildren, not only children, but grandchildren, of course. But this project, from my perspective, demonstrates as to how you can change the stereotypes in the society. And in this way, it's a global trend now, because quite recently, all newspapers were writing that Monica Bellucci, she's now 50. She's going to play James Bond's girlfriend. 30 years ago, it was even impossible to imagine that a lady of 50 would play the role of James Bond's girlfriend. But it's possible, both in global movies and in our side. So it's changing the attitude to your life. Unfortunately, not many senior people are involved in festivities, the days of the city. First of all, because the main events usually occur on the central platforms, and senior people just don't like going to the center a lot. Just 3% of elder people do it. But what we want to do is not just to overcome the stereotypes in relation to the old citizens, but to help them from the point of view of information and planning. The Culture of Moscow portal that the Culture Department is doing, we have a special section. We have a special section for children, and now for 50+ people, where you can gain specialized information for this category, age category of what might be of interest to you, where to go, how to spend your free time. And now I would like to stress that, first of all, that means a different quality of life for senior people. And you can see they are gaining more acquaintances and new friends. They feel more comfortable and confident in their lives. they are not subject to aging depression, because it's not no secret. When people retire, they feel themselves switched off of their cultural life. So this is involvement in their life, and this gives them an opportunity to feel involved. And in conclusion, I would like to say that the projects that we are doing are very important for us. Is not just to attract passive old pensioners as spectators or listeners. It's very important to get their feedback, to share their experience, their knowledge, and feel needed. In the Zeal Cultural Center, we started a project which is called Your Century. Or your age, 60 people, veterans of the ZIL factory, and together with young playwrights, they are going to write a play, and then professional actors will be playing, and they're trying to answer the question, what we would like to share with the next generation, what we can do today, and how we can be useful. So I would like to finish at that, to stress again that at 50, your life just starts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. We'll now hear from Matthias Holwich.
Almost. Yes, fantastic. Sorry, I'm going to run around a little bit in front of you. I apologize already, but I think this issue is actually just so much more important than we all imagine. And I'm actually very excited now to see a whole kind of range of ages in here. May I just ask one indecent question? So whoever is above 40 years old, can you lift up your hand? Couple of people? Couple? Yes. So here's the bad news. When you're above 40, you're officially old, because you have surpassed 50% of your life expectancy. And with acknowledging that you're now actually old, you can actually stop worrying about getting older and really concentrate on the things that are important to you. I'm just an architect. And with our firm, we're doing all kind of different projects on many different scales, from cultural projects, from institutional projects, to also larger scale developments. But the most important one that we're really doing is something we're calling new aging. And the whole project started a couple of years ago when I realized that with 40 years, I already surpassed 50% of my life expectancy. And I wanted to figure out what's next. And I realized that we have to start a revolution. We have to start a revolution against nobody else except ourselves. Because we all believe that there's this wonderful moment of retirement where we all play golf. In America, we do that in Florida. But what really is the truth, aging sucks. Because nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to depend on other people. And nobody wants to be stored away. And this is why I'm asking, why are there still 17,000 nursing homes in America with 17,000 reasons to not go into any of them? I also ask myself why we as architects built hazardous buildings that became traps in our own future. And even worse so, we're creating urban conditions that are trapping us into places that doesn't give us all the kind of freedoms that we deserve. We all are aging. We're doing it right now. We're doing it since we were born. There's nothing mysterious about it. When you look at data, you realize 100 people are born, 100 people will die. And in between, lots of things just happening, and this are statistics. We're gonna lose the possibility to drive a car. We have difficulties with tasks, and we also lose independence in terms of living. So we can just look at these statistics and now just become rational about it, confront it, and find solutions. And with these solutions, we can avoid that 1/3 of all Americans have to live in a nursing home for a period of time. And how we change that is something that really starts with ourselves. Number one, and I have to apologize, I'm gonna criticize all of you. You're talking about the elderly, you're talking about the seniors. These people don't exist. There are no elderlies. The only people that are there are older people. This is you and me in a few years from now. So we actually have to just consider, we have to design something for people which maybe have some handicaps, which maybe have some challenges, but the difference is that we have to adjust it towards everyone's lives, common life, and make sure that everyone can participate in it. Exactly how you said, that actually we want to integrate everyone in it, but we don't have to create something specially for the elderly. We just have to make sure that all the people can participate in everything. Because they want, like we want, they want to live the life they want. They want to be individual, they want to be self-determined, they want to be meaningful. We don't want to be silly and just play bingo at some point. We want to be connected to the community. We want to have social exchange. We need gradual help. And we need safety and security. This is why we have to turn our metropolis into Geropolis. And it all starts with an approach where we have to analyze our cities with diverse urban contexts. Because we also have to remember, since we talk about individuality, there's not one solution for everyone. There are multiple solutions, there are hundreds, there are thousands. And when we as architects start to work, we have to look in all of different kind of conditions and to look for solutions. And we have to introduce lifestyle-based living solutions that are customized towards the economical group and also to the urban conditions. And then we have to love aging. Everything we do in terms of architecture has to have an excellence in terms of design. It has to be beautiful, it has to be attractive. Because what we have to do is we have to fight age discrimination through the beauty of design, to excite people about what we do for all generations, so that when somebody drives by and this is maybe a building where all the people live in, everyone should say like, holy shit, this is beautiful, I want to be there. Oh, it's for older people? Oh, let me get older, that's gonna be cool. We have to create environments that allow us to be social. There are some very banal things with kind of social conditions of urban plazas, engagements, infrastructure that creates a lively exchange which is accessible for everyone. But we can also go deeper into innovations in architecture. This is a project we created in New York where we had to create micro units with very small living conditions which are very economical. But then we put all the social conditions up onto the roof so that that's where the people meet. Because we have to remember that 50% of all people in a nursing home are there because of social degradations and social deficits. So when we create architecture that finally breaks the border again from the single unit studios into a more community-based living with amenities on a roof that is super attractive, we suddenly can bring people back together with each other and activate them, and don't do what every other developer does, a base with a tower and sell the top of the building for the most amount of money. We have to turn around the typology, put the public spaces up onto the roof to the most beautiful view so that that becomes the place where people meet. And of course, as architects, this is fun. We can create beautiful buildings that become iconic and that become symbols for a new way of life. And interestingly, they are actually co-housing, their social kind of ambitious housing that comes actually also out of a Russian heritage. And that is something that is being finally re-explored, where then all generations can come together with dining, with sport activities, and all kind of activities that are not customized for the elderly. These are just activities that we all want now and later in life. And then we have to make sure that my home is my castle, because houses can become dangerous, they can become traps. And one example is very interesting. We have to make sure that all the bathrooms are basically accessible for all kind of conditions. And there are different studies that actually dementia is triggered in some cases because of lack of drinking water by older people. Now another study found out that older people are afraid to use the bathroom, and that's why they're not drinking. So when we don't design the right bathrooms, we are actually responsible for dementia cases. And this can be fun, that can be beautiful, and it can be engaging. The same thing with grab bars. How ugly are they? How iconic, how discriminatory, what kind of discrimination these kind of grab bars are. But if we consider them as design elements and integrate them beautiful, it will make all the difference, functionally and also aesthetically. And these are examples. We had actually put together a collection of young architects to work with us on all different kind of scenarios. And they came up with beautiful architectural designs, but also with kind of much more detailed kind of solutions. This is, for example, a kitchen that allows also wheelchair accessibility. And it keeps on going, and there's so much potential for innovation also in different kind of housing typologies, because we also have to acknowledge that maybe a partner will pass away. What do you do with your apartment? Can we have the right apartments where we can also invite a friend to move in? So it cannot be just a master bedroom and a child's room. We have to create actually new typologies that allow much more flexibility. This was one scenario where you have two different master bedrooms. You have much more liberal access into the house where you can go through a private entrance or a public entrance. All of these kind of things can be revisited and reseen. And then it should be also that some of the rooms are transformative. We know at some point our bedroom could become also our living room. How we can deal with that, that is something very important. And then new other typologies. Here we looked into single studios stacked on top of each other with also a communal space on the top again. And then stay fit. Many of us, we go to the gym, we work out, we have to do that all our lives. But actually, I hope that Amy gonna refer to some of the most beautiful sayings. She said informal exercising, so that we build in exercise just through our daily routine that can come through just the use of outdoor, maybe the use of stairs. But there are also many other things that we can bring in. This is from Madeleine Gins, where she created an intergenerational exchange where actually younger people come together with older people and really enjoy and can live an active life. And this was a study for the Bauhaus Foundation where we looked into reinserted kind of activity elements. This is just very diagrammatic, but making sure that it is not hidden. It needs to be in the center of the city. It needs to inspire people to participate. And then we talked about like when people retire. Well, the point is we should never retire. If you look forward to retirement, quit your job, start something else, you should do something for the rest of your life, because that creates meaningful contribution. Maybe you work less, maybe you volunteer, but never retire. And architecture can create business centers, we can create home offices, we create urban kind of engagement volunteering centers. There's infrastructure that we can introduce into our urban environment to make that all happen. And then we have to add services and conveniences. How beautiful that is when we have a little bit more time and have the convenience for us. And the beauty is right now there is an industrial revolution, and there are many things that are happening for us, and we don't really have to worry that much about it. But architecturally we have to aggregate and bring in more complex programs, and we can, of course, also have our convenience just by hiring additional help. but the additional help can also happen through shared responsibility with our friends and neighbors, or added technology which finally becomes something that is really becoming useful, or even we can go all the way into other ideas. But we have to be just open and embrace it, and as architects research what's coming out on the market and take that into account. And last but not least, my recommendation is never enter a nursing home. Look into stealth care that can come to the house informally to you and help you at any given time. Or if it happens, this is actually, we designed the most dangerous nursing home on the planet. That is, you check in and you check out, and it's also kind of a an anti-nursing home, because we exchange with different generations and different activities, so that it becomes not inherent what is inside of the building. And when you're actually in a wheelchair and you're up there, somebody climbing over the roof, how fun will that be, and will motivate you to leave again. So this is what I believe is our revolution. It's about against nobody else than our own understanding of what aging is all about. We all are aging, and if we fail, then we're going to be the ones who have to suffer the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And we're now going to have a presentation from Dmitry Ragosin.
Да, пока включ...
So the presentation is here on the screen. Colleagues, let me have my presentation as a comment to the previous one. So I agree with everything what has been said. Just one thing just scared me a bit. Revolution. You know, I think revolution should be banned once and for all. Let's not speak in these terms. But what I agree with. So we should stop looking at aging and elderly people as an area or a group of people which we have to help and assist all the time. Yes, elderly people can be cool and aging can be cool and we can be proud of it. And the Soviet thing that children is our future is just something, it's a fake, and we're living with it through our lives. So we know that our future is getting old and we have to live with it. So what I wanted to say, first of all, why elderly people are important for us and why we need them. First of all, they have the social capital that was accumulated throughout their lives, and we travel a lot across Russia and we do a lot of research, and we talk to elderly people, talk to employees, employers and young people, with those who think or do not think what is expecting them in the future. When we start talking to an elderly person, well, for instance, 45 plus, well, a grown-up person thinking about his or her life, and the first answers we get from him or her are related to the complaints. Well, they are complaining a lot. The state does not help. No one needs me, and all. But for us as researchers, we have to wait for 15 or 20 minutes, and then after this 15 or 20 minutes, they start talking about meaningful stories. They are beyond this complaining attitude, and they are talking about what they really feel. And it's not our discovery. We talk to various experts, and we can see the same story everywhere. So the most modest people, those who are abandoned, they have so significant life potential even in their age, 50 plus, 60 plus, and lots of professors would envy their life experience. So it's a surprising thing in elderly groups. Among those people, they say that they lack a lot and they stay alone. They're very alone, and a lot of researchers who who accumulate the data, they stop after this 15 minutes and they do not look into what happens afterwards. And what really happens is that irrespective of the age, of the level of income, of the condition of their health, of course, health is the most important thing for everyone. Money is priority number two, maybe, but elderly people really help more in their families, in their households than all others. And the value of their age is that our elderly people are the ones who keep the families together. You know, relatives and our close and distant relatives, you know, only with the age you can accumulate the social capital. And we understand, we realize how important it is to know your relatives, to be close with your friends and family and help them. And it turns out that a granny who gets 8,000 rubles, 6,000 rubles, or 12,000 rubles as her pension, well, she gives the money to her grandchildren. It's a transition of social capital and the importance of this person in the history of the family. So first 15 minutes of the talk, our researchers come and hear the same thing: give us money, give us better pension, give us, and give us. And the whole discourse of our state machine is only talking about how we help this and there and here. And yes, we help a lot on the level of the budget, but on the level of family, we do not help a lot. But when we talk after this, beyond these 15 minutes, we can see how the social capital manifests itself, and the younger people lack it. They have to study and work, they just run around, and they have to do something with their ambitions, but they do not realize that their ambitions could be implemented and could help a lot in various communities. And another important topic about large families, about various forms of self-organization, you know, those Soviet small communities and places where people met. And sometimes we think that yes, they're just drinking, but no, really, they do something. They talk to each other. They share opinions, and they help to live to each other. And what I wanted to stress as well, it was articulated by the previous presenter as well. So we have to get away from this notion of continuous help and assistance to the elderly people. We always think that they should feel comfortable and all, but it is important for us that we feel comfortable with them, because we need them much more than they need us. And what really happens, what actually happens today, when we come to these elderly people and ask, how does the state help you? How do you communicate with the state? And they say, nothing, I do not know anything about the state and what they do. Why? Because the state works with a very narrow group of such people. But even this community, the state assistance support is just the money. And sometimes they organize various festivities, and that's what the elderly says. That's what they do for us, and that's it. And what's the challenge here for us as a community living in this living today? So we replicate this industrial model of a person's life. We have time for education, for work, and for retirement. But in real life, just look at it. Everything is mixed today. Well, I agree to what has been said just now. It's not just the period of time you work after you graduate and you complete it with the retirement. No, we work all the time. We're active. And another important, surprising thing, in our all-Russian poll we conducted, we tried to understand how elderly people whether they are willingness and capable of getting new education, of learning. We found out that 1/3 of the population, irrespective of their education level and the location of their residence, they are prepared to learn. They want to learn. And for me, as a professor in a university, for me it sounds a bit strange, since I always see that our audience, I'm not speaking about bachelors, but masters and improvement of qualification, the audience is quite young and they learn and study, but at the same time I can see that if in any of other groups, and it happens even today more and more often, if we have a person 50 plus, then this group becomes more successful, since the professor cannot just tell jokes during the lectures, because this grown-up 50 plus guy will always stop him or her from telling jokes and just telling nonsense. So what's the tragedy of this? We do not need revolutions, something different. The tragedy of this is that when we start talking about education for elderly people, we always speak about education for leisure. Let's taught them how to operate a computer or knitting or something. But I talked to a woman, she's 70, and she says, I speak three foreign languages. I want to learn more, but no one wants to talk to me. I have a huge potential, and it's a real tragedy for the people in large cities, among those with higher education, with several higher educations, for those who changed several professions during their life, and they have a huge life experience, and they are told you can work in a wardrobe, you can work as a nurse in a kindergarten, or just be a babysitter, and they say no, you're just nothing. And that's the main tragedy of this situation. It's quite often the case that the competences that people accumulate during their lives become just nil and are not in demand after you retire. And people also believe that their competences are not in demand. So what's the most important thing in terms of, speaking about human capital, what differentiates elderly from the mid-aged and youngsters? Of course, spare time. Spare time is much time. It's a huge resource that spares you this mood always in a hurry. As Mr. Shanin said, my professor, there is no such task to be tackled in a hurry. So if you have something that you should tackle before tomorrow, then it's just nothing. Do not think about such things. Think about something more fundamental. That's what we are taught by the elderly people. So in this sense, in this case, we present a question we asked to HRs, heads of HR departments of large and medium-sized business. So it was an all-Russian poll, 3,000 participants, and the question was quite simple. So could you please tell us what's the age of your employees that you can call elderly people? So the percentage is a bit confused here, but 31% said that the elderly people are those who are under 40. Well, it's just a tragedy, and 40% said that those under 50 or 55. So it so happens that when the whole world says that the elderly people starts from 64.
Well, 64 is average age when we're full of life and strength. Our employer shows that senior age groups are at a lower level, lower sectors. So we asked some more questions, and they're all here. What's surprising, well, maybe not surprising, but what reflects our understanding an idea of the world, that the executives thinks that usually young people master new technologies, but it's curious enough that for a small amount of money, more senior citizens are more often ready to work, and they don't go on sick leave that often. And seriously speaking, our only reserve is to somehow come to the break-even point, is to work with those senior citizens. So what are the conclusions of my comments? First, despite all the talks about the crisis, and since our society is gathering momentum in aging, our Russian companies, own a huge potential of human and social potential that can be attracted with employment of senior people, continuous education, not just some trajectories like you graduated from a university and that's it. Continuous education, which is the basis of human capital, and if a senior senior citizen is involved in education, that it means that he's involved in this process, and rejection of trusteeship ideology, and also very important on mentoring ideology, and the good feeling good monitoring. So when you monitor how the people of all age groups working together in one team. Thank you.
Have Amy Kyoto.
Today I would like to actually talk about really the user experience about what we create, the urban setting and policy that we create. And I would actually like to show you the case study that we have done. Before I start the presentation, I'd like to give you one quote. I always get the question, why elderly people are not happy? And I said, I don't have an answer for you, but I have a quote for you from Bhutan. It is supposed to be the highest, happiest country in the world. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make other people happy. I have to say that really captures so nicely with what we do for the older people. We might be actually taking the opportunity from them to be. It doesn't. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So I don't remember where. Okay. Yeah. So I think that one of the things I would like to talk about is that we have a tendency to provide care for older people all the time. And we might be taking the opportunity to be useful to others that makes people to be happy. So we have an organization that tries to advocate to create a place with older people for them to be able to have opportunity to be useful to others in the community. So, but sometimes we just don't think about the social needs. But I like to go through what are the real issues of older people. The elders are not able to drive a car, that is a problem, and go out for entertainment, visit family, complete household tasks, and use high-tech devices. There seems to be the list of things that older people complaining about what they can't do. And just to try to create inclusive cities, what we really need for older people to have a basic need met. It is resources to maintain health and independently. And just economical security, it's very important. Of course, affordable housing and transportation, participate in the community life, and opportunity for meaningful employment and civic participation. Having a house, income, and clothes, that doesn't. Hello? Is this on? Yeah. Can you hear me better? Yeah. So, okay. These are the basic things the basic things that older people needs to be secure, but we also need a psychological needs that has to be met. So what are we concerned about? You know, from policymakers, architects, and urban planners, we all talking about economical burden because we have more older people, we need more financial support for them, and relocation from the home to institution is another problem. Like, you know, some speaker talk about not, we don't want to live in nursing home. I don't want to live in nursing home. So as you, I think. And devastating impact of natural disaster on older populations. When you have a natural disaster hit, older people are the hardest one to get hit. Like for Japan's tsunami happened, 65% of the death was over 65 years old. So we are really, we have to be prepared to work with them. But really, when you talk to the people on the ground, what they're concerning about is really not about economical burden, all this. It's a simple thing. Social isolation, losing dignity and respect, not having positive social role. Those are the three things as elders are the ones that they're concerning about. So traditional view of older people, it's elders are variable population, the vulnerable population who needs to be cared for by younger generations. You know, aging society, people worry that elders are burden to our society. That is the traditional view. That's why everybody's concerning about the aging, global aging. But the Ibasho that our organization, how we view aging is elders are the valuable assets of community. I have to actually, it's resonate with the previous speakers. Life experience and wisdom that benefits younger generations and help strengthen the resilience to their community. Again, older people do have a social capital because they live long in the same community for a long time. So I want to show you a case study how we actually approach to create the place with older people where elders have opportunity to be useful to the community. So I'm showing you this disaster. You know, you've probably seen these pictures 3.5 years ago. So we worked in the community right here, actually, with older people after the disaster. We had some funding to say, well, we would like this money to be used for helping older people. I say we don't use that to help older people. We actually like to use that money for them to help other community members as the elders to connect other people. So we had a small funding. What we have created was a small cafe. How we did it, I do always question the way that we design the place, urban setting and the housing for older people. We hire experts to design it, but we rarely ask what older people want. So we empower older people to be a part of design. They build together and they're now operating. So we really empower older people to run the whole show. So it is not us operating it. So older people are creating, generating their own income to run this community. And why that makes special for them is that they know they are doing something special to help young children and young generation to maintain the local culture that they would like to carry on to the next generation. So this is a place where entire community can get together, and it is not the kind of institution that people has to go at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock you go home. You can always stop by just like a normal cafe. In the public place, it's owned by community, but local, not by local government. So local government, we had all this help from local government, but it is owned by community and it's run by community. And reconstruction of old farmhouse that you can actually see like old pictures in, on the down, that was the farmhouse. We wanted to use this for two reasons. One, we wanted to use this as a symbol of old being beautiful. You know, new construction cannot carry the character of it. Second, we were able to hire retired carpenters who are not able to make the new houses like with the new technologies. And older people still keep the tradition of the skills that we wanted younger generation to learn. So how we actually, what kind of place is this? We have about 8 principles. If you're interested, I have a little booklet you can actually review. We follow like 8 principles. It's very simple common sense, but this is how we interpret it. Principle 1, older people are valuable asset of community. This picture shows you, this person is a retired carpenters. He's making a little ladder to, their neighbors because the new ladders are not fitting to other places. So children are able to learn this carpentry work from the older people. And principle 2, creating informal gathering place. We are not creating nursing home. We are not creating senior center because nobody wants to go to those places. We wanted to create a place where people can come in and go out. And principle 3, community members drives development and implementation. We are not providing service and building for them. We are working with them. So we always include them and empower them to be a part of the design and implementation and operation, of course. And this is another picture I wanted to show you. This is right after we had an opening. These older people, you don't really have to do any of these activities. But they are there just because they want to find something to do to be useful to this community cafe. It's highly well maintained because a lot of people are looking for something to do to be here. And all generations are involved in the community. We do believe that multi-generational activity is very important, but again, we do not create events for them. We just try to facilitate some activities so that people can actually naturally connect. So those kids from the neighborhood came, and this gentleman, he's looking after this Ibasho Cafe on this day. He's teaching children about astrologies because that's he used to be a fisherman, and he wanted to share his experience to children. And this is another way we created a library because we created this community center. What we don't want to create was that older people hang out in grandmother's cafe. We wanted to have cafe that young generation will come that is run by older people to the community. So this is what happened. Some volunteer people will come and just reading a booklet to the children. And this is a principle 5, all residents participate in normal community life. Institutional care is something we don't create. That woman in the middle, she has a very severe dementia. She cannot really talk. She doesn't remember her name. But all this food that you can actually see on the right, she made the whole thing. If she has proper support, people can be independent. And we wanted to show that in the cafe to say, just because you have dementia, you can't do anything. If they have enough support, they can actually teach us what to do. The local culture and traditions are respected. We wanted to make sure that whatever we do, we really listen to the local community and just, preserve their local culture and an architecture. So this is a farmhouse that was donated by one of the farmer, and she wanted to donate this because she lost 9 members of her family members at the tsunami. She wanted to have the house to be symbolically, maintained and encourage other people. And this is really hard to see, but it's a very traditional Japanese architecture inside, which younger people cannot do. The only older people can actually put it together. So we wanted to use this, as a symbol that older people can actually be helping younger people and help them to learn the culture that they might not used to. In the principle 7, communities are environmentally, economically, and socially sustainable. We always talk about economical sustainability, environmental sustainabilities, but those 3 has to come together to really have the sustainable operations. This picture shows the group of ladies just come as a cleaner, just volunteer ladies. What they're doing is that they're actually cleaning this whole place without any chemicals. The young people will be complaining about why you have to do that, but older people said this is better for all of us. We have to actually be a teacher for young people to be environmentally friendly. And the principle 8, that's the last principle. Growth of the community is organic, and we have to embrace imperfection gracefully. For the urban planners, sometimes, or architects, we can be very perfectionist to create everything perfect. But for the users, why is any space where they can make that for their perfection. You know, we have to actually create intentional imperfection so that user can create their own perfections. You know, we have to stop over-designing too much, and we have to respect the talent of older people and the local people and just believe in this. Just for this picture, I wanted to show you, we were supposed to have a ramp from the government's requirement. We talked to the city mayor and said, you know, this is gonna come. The ramp will come for the wheelchairs, but can you wait for 3 months for local community people to design it? And they actually had a lot of conversation, and they came up with a ramp. That's what they are proud of. But you know, we always have to create the place where people can be involved as a part of the owners. So these are like some pictures how it's being used over 2 years, and this is just used. You know, a lot of people, they just the project expanded. Now they have organic farming, and they have a farmers market to generate their own operation income. So I wanted to end with how we can support elders to live in the place within the community. From this the project, 2 things I learned. One, it's not on this paper. One, we all have to trust more for older people because they can tell you what they can and they cannot do. And the second one is community is something that we have to negotiate and create with others. This is not something that we can passively receive. So when we think about community development and urban development, we always have to have a little space where they can actually make their own area and own contribution. It might be a little bit of challenge for the communication, yet we should not complete the project ourselves thinking that we know better. So if you have any questions, this is my email. But thank you.
Thank you very much, and sorry for the difficulty with the microphone there. No, it's a bit of a technical fault. We're running a little bit late. We've got one last speaker, and then we're going to open it up so we can have a bit of a discussion. So I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Ankara, Melik Gökçek, and if we could limit it to 10 minutes, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Efendim herkese iyi günler diliyorum. Ben Türkiye'den Ankara Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanı Melik Gökçek. Bana konu olaraktan sosyal faaliyetler verilmişti. Sadece yaşlılara özgü değil. Biz Ankara Büyükşehir Belediyesi olarak 164 tane sosyal ve kültürel projeyi yürütüyoruz. Bu 164 proje yaşlılara,
In the framework of our activity of Mayor of Ankara, we provide services to children, to people, and senior citizens. And I realized that this session is more devoted to senior people. That's why I think that I better be focused on older people. So I would like to say that we have 3 groups, 3 social groups of senior people. We have special centers for senior citizens, and you can call them by phone, and we always have round the clock the experts in duty, and they can go to visit the person and free of charge help him out. That can be different services of different types, medical, or maybe some small home repair, refurbishment, or maybe cleaning. And we have a second specialized center which provides family services for senior people. The center, they can visit themselves with their children, with their grandchildren. 40 types of different activities are there. They can go in for step or aerobics, some museum excursions, and they learn drawing and painting. And now we have a lot of painters around. And also computer literacy, we have also 8 family centers which compete among each other by different sections. And I would like to stress here that we have a special center where we train computer literacy for the people to further be able use their personal computers. I myself is the mayor of Ankara for 21 years, and we pay special attention to senior population. Everybody older than 65 are allowed to move around the city free of charge using transport. And we always think of how to better help the senior people free of charge, for them not to pay anything. For instance, they can use buses free of charge, another important problem, especially for socially uncomfortable people, I mean hospitals. We send them to hospitals and then bring them back home, no charge. Another type of activity, summer and winter, we send them in groups in healthcare centers for 1 week. So the municipality of Ankara provides their activity, sports and other activities. We have very low-income senior people, and they can use free of charge food and clothing 3 times a year. We have courses of gardeners for them. And also, I would like to show you several slides with my presentation. The social projects of the municipality are very important. In Ankara, there are a lot of things are done, a lot of projects are executed, social projects. And thanks to that, the amount of crime, especially in Ankara, has reduced dramatically, especially because of those other causes I mentioned. Both old and younger people are involved, and this is the program we do for, based on the Gazi University, technical courses. This is one of the biggest universities in Turkey. 133,000 people graduated from the courses, and they are now capable of obtaining a new vocation or maybe set up their own business. Besides, we have rehabilitation centers for disabled people, and we pay special attention there to the services they can get free of charge from the municipality. And in 2014, 26,000 disabled people were serviced by the centers. Here are some numbers that demonstrate how we support people in different aspects, the disabled people, and I would like to stress again that they are free of charge, all those rehabilitation centers. And we have unique experience of internet cafe with for visually impaired people, where they can use special headsets and keyboards with Braille alphabet, well, which is all very important. And we have disabled clubs for people who are physically disabled. Different activities are underway. For instance, you can see here on the picture painting lessons.
And it was only in 2014 that 2006 people with disabilities participated in the activities of such clubs. And for the people with disabilities, every year we offer an opportunity to go to excursions and visit places around Turkey, and also visit various health centers. And the elderly people, I already mentioned this, they can be serviced in this and get services in these centers, specific centers, and 40,000 people addressed to these centers came to us, and we offer various services: social, psychological assistance, medicine, repayment, hairdressers, and so on. So you can see that we have special people who come to homes of such people, and they provide help. So upper photo shows how people communicate in the club. We also have a so-called home of affection, where elderly people, and not only them, where they can come, and for those who stay temporarily in Ankara and they have no place to live, so we give them shelter to elderly people and to large families. We have 5 homes like this, and we try and always stay in touch with them, and we wanted them to always stay with us, keep in touch with us. On the screen you can see one of such affection houses. And we also have 8 family centers in Ankara. In these 8 centers, about 40 types of various kinds of activities are offered for people of various ages, for children and grown-ups and elderly people, and everyone can find something to do. And we have special women's clubs only for women. They are also quite active. We offer aerobics, step exercises, table tennis, computer courses, and those are the courses for women only. 62,000 women in 2014 attended this courses, this type of courses. We also have Belmec courses, 3 specialties. 151 course is being offered in this club, and now 231,000 women were trained in this center: sewing, patchworking, so manual activities. We also have centers for the youth, and we offer lots of various activities in such centers: playing musical instruments or joint activities, concerts, competitions. We have the clubs for children. It's a branch of our ordinary clubs. I already talked about them. So in such clubs, we offer special activities for children of various ages. And another important social activity of us is the Center for Children who work in the streets. 21 years ago, we had about 5,000 people, children, working in the streets of the city. And yes, it's a bad situation. I was astonished by this figure, and thanks to our activities, now this figure is 500 children who work in the street. And we attract children in our centers. The centers are very well equipped. We have a very interesting initiative, the Children Parliament, hosted by the center. So it's a children parliament. The children can occupy various positions in this parliament. And since my presentation is quite short and I just touched upon all our projects, but for children and grown-ups and people with disabilities and the elderly people, we hosted about 164 projects for various communities, and we do it in Ankara, and we will be happy to see you in Ankara, and we invite you to look at what we have there in our centers. Thank you very much for your attention.
So we've got a little bit of time left. I'm just going to ask one very quick question because I want to bring the people who haven't had a chance to speak yet, and then we'll have some time for any questions from the floor. So what I was interested in, and this is a question to Pavel and to Anatoly, and in fact to anyone else who might want to say something afterwards. We've heard about Japanese experience, we've heard about Turkish experience, we've heard various different countries, and I'm wondering, first of all, how much these issues differ from country to country, and secondly, what the Russian experience is, what's specific to Russia, what's specific to Moscow, how much of a role do things like the climate here play, do cultural differences play? So I'd be interested to get both of your thoughts on that, and then also anyone else if they want to come in.
Коллеги, давайте тогда
Colleagues, let me start answering this question. First of all, I'd like to say that, in principle, in fact, the general problems, issues that were articulated by all presenters, they are all, they are similar for all countries and cities. The social inclusivity of the elderly. If we look at the room we're now in, we can see that the majority of the audience are under 40. And Sean, you mentioned at the beginning of this session, you mentioned that the center of Moscow looks very young. But if we ask a question, is Moscow a young city? We can answer no. Moscow is not a young city. What's the problem here? Some social groups, not only the elderly people, but others, they are invisible, kind of. So if we think about where we can meet the elderly people, can we meet them in the urban forum or the city center or a cafe? Well, I think most of the time we answer negatively to these questions. We can't see them in such places. Another point that was articulated, what the practices are, and what are the practices that enable us to see, to make the elderly people visible. So how do you meet your grannies and parents usually? Do you invite them to go to concerts? Would you go to a restaurant or a cafe, and would you invite them to your presentation at Urban Forum? Well, I don't think so. And the basis of the social inclusion, well, I think it is general. It is similar for all cities and large megapolises. The thing is that there is lack of the matrix of meeting the elderly people in practical view and in geographical view. And about the practice, the motivation is the most important thing here. What's the factor to involve people, elderly people, into the urban environment? What can make them visible for Moscow and for other cities? And I would like to comment on what Dmitry Mikhailovich said. Look, yes, we feel that the elderly say that they are out of the social life. They feel frustration, they feel unsatisfied, they feel unhappy. Yes, but as we think, and this opinion comes from the results of our research in Moscow, that in the basis of this frustration is not the economic factors, but the social exclusion. That's the root cause, and in order to strengthen the motivation of the elderly to be involved into the urban life, I think it is needed to create various formats of urban life that would be inclusive for such people, something that enables them to enter the urban environment. And Metis, what you said, I think it's a very interesting project, lots of projects to create space capabilities and opportunities for the elderly people and for us to meet them and engage with them. But how to make the elderly visible for not elderly people? For those who are here in this forum, it's a space question. It's a question about in what places we can see elderly people. So we conducted various research at city festive occasions, and yes, we can see that the elderly people are not willing to get to the city center. But why so? Why this mobility is seemingly limited? Well, if we look at the results of the poll, 60 or 50 plus, the majority of such people become unsatisfied with the quality of the transportation, public transportation in Moscow. Well, youngsters are not also satisfied, but after 55, the number of people who are not satisfied with the public transport is growing, and it's not about how regular the transportation is. You know, it's just the unsatisfaction of the services and the places, how people are positioned, you know, how the whole thing is constructed. So the mobility of the elderly and their involvement into the urban life, not only in the neighborhoods they live in, and that's what Elena Zelentsov talked about, but the city center, how to make them more visible. Well, it's again the question of better transportation accessibility and transportation satisfaction. Thank you very much. Thank you. In a couple of months, I'm 80 years old. It's my birthday in a couple of months. Thank you very much. And when Matthias told that when he turned 40, he realized that he lived through 50% of his life expectancy period, I thought that I'm coming closer to 100% of my life expectancy period. So I'm alive and I'm quite actively working, and I'm not complaining on my age. I can't say that it stops me from something, but it's just nothing comparing to what I just realized recently. My classmate, my peer in terms of age, a couple of months ago won the championship in fencing. Well, of course, in the seniors group, but anyway, the world championship, and he is the winner. I do not know whether we have such competitions, whether we conduct them. I think it's a very useful thing indeed to continue such sport life if you was into it during your life. But that's all good news for today. Since I'm as an expert in demographics, I have to tackle very unpleasant for the elderly people matters, unpleasant matters. So, especially here in Russia, I should say that now across the world, especially in the developed countries, the life expectancy is increasing, and that doesn't happen in Russia. And if we compare and look at a 60 years old and look at how much time he is going to live in general, in Russia the figure is about 12 years, and in the Western countries it is 22, 23, sometimes 20 years, 22, 23 years. So it's a huge gap between how much you are going to live in Russia after 60, the men's pension age. And the problem here is not about clubs, lack of clubs, centers, special places where such people can come and do things, but it's a deeper problem. It's a problem that comes from the healthcare system and social protection system. There is another indicator we also work with, the expectancy of a healthy life. And out of this 15 years that a Russian citizen will live after 60, only 11 out of them, 11 out of them, he will lead a healthy life, and the remaining 4 years he will live with various illnesses, suffering from various illnesses, and the the attitude towards such people is different. For instance, if a person cannot see well, we can name him a disabled person. But if he has special glasses, then he lives a full life and everything's fine. But all other levels of disabilities call for special assistance from the system of healthcare and other institutions, for people to function normally without having any problems to just get out of your house. If you're in a wheelchair and you can see steep steps at the porch of your block of flats, you cannot just get out of the building. So the problems are in abundance. I do not have much time, but I should say that all these things are very important because the number of the elderly people is growing very quickly, and in the coming 20 years, the number of the elderly 60 plus in the group of 60 plus and even in the group 80 plus will increase by 9 million people. And that's, in some countries have lower population, so it's a huge figure. It's a challenge, and we have to meet it. It's a challenge of the life, since elderly people should have the right for life. Well, if problems are there, then it means that we should work hard to tackle these issues. That's why I'm saying that these small good steps are not enough. It's a serious state problem indeed. Life expectancy is growing in Russia, but it grows due to lower numbers of mortality rate of children. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we're really short of time. We're already at the end of the allotted time. But I would like to just see if there's any questions that we could take very quickly before we wrap up, if anyone wants to ask anything. No. Well, in that case, we could carry on. There's a lot more that I would like to ask, but we are already at the end of the time. So if anybody wants to talk in more detail about any of the things we've heard, they're welcome to approach any of the speakers at the end. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks everybody on the panel for your thoughts. Sorry it wasn't more of an interactive discussion, but I guess we'd need twice as much time for that. So thank you very much.